Right.
Right. But right, the headlines are work in progress, isn't it?
It's a constant work in progress.
It's not bad though, is it?
It's very good. It's another shift forward. You'll always seen the top pitch is sort of the last pitch, if you like, to get done. This is sort of a good add-on, I would say. Media suite type thinking. So yeah, nearly sort of off the pitch, nearly in the place where the club wants to be.
Well, that's the thing about it. I mean, it looks like the M25 out there, but it's 100 times better than when you first walked through the door, isn't it?
Yes, considerably, I would say, all the way through the club. These are the finer touches, really, in the grand scheme of things. But no, the health of the club is a given, really.
It's funny. 48 hours ago, everyone said you had a fantastic summer transfer-wise. Andre Gray leaves, and suddenly everyone's saying he's had a dreadful summer.
Well, to be honest, his missus wanted a ticket for the director's box, so it was obvious he had to go. Michael Keane's brother wanted tea at half-time instead of coffee, so he had to go. It had nothing to do with them having a year left on their contract and the normal business of football. So, of course, as you can imagine.
So you're pleased with the deal? Bearing in mind you've got that.
No, I think look, no one wants to lose their best players, but there's a reality to all clubs, and particularly this one. And players with a year left on their contract in any club, it's fair to say we're not the market leaders financially, so therefore they've got a chance to look at other options. And when they've got that year left, it's tough. For all clubs, not just for us, because you've got to, how far do you go to keep them here as regards their contracts? What are they asking for? What are their agents wanting? And some outgrow the club financially. And I think, probably two different reasons. Andre's sort of 26. It's an important stage of his career for him personally and his life. And with Keano, it's arguably, it's fair to say that he wanted to sort of move on just on the pitch and off the pitch. On the pitch because you think Everton are pushing forward at a greater rate of knots, and off the pitch meaning I'm sure his contract is comfortable. So that's different moves for different people for different reasons.
On the Andre front, I mean, you went as far as you could in terms of offering him.
Yeah. We, there's still a kind of a level that this club operates to, and it makes it tough at times. But it is the reality of where the club's at. Even with the talks about finance, it's still, the club's still looking at years 3, 4, 5 to make sure they're as well as sort of looked after as well as year one. It makes it tough. I've never denied it. It's tough on, us trying to keep moving forwards because inevitably all of this is done by what's done on the pitch, and that is the key thing.
Is the timing frustrating though?
Well, it happened once before with Charlie Austin when he moved 2 days before the season. They gave us an extra day this time, and that was the emergence of Sam Vokes and Danny Ings. So, I think when these opportunities come around, they're there to be gripped by the other players, and there's obvious slots available, other than people we've brought in as well, of course.
Is it difficult though? People know you've got cash to spend, or maybe you haven't got cash to spend. I don't know, but people see that sort of money in the market and think suddenly they're going to add prices to what maybe the players you're looking at.
I don't know. That's up to them. We can only, move an offer in the right areas where we think is appropriate.
So why are you moving in those right areas?
We're attempting to in a number of different areas, but every manager. I was at the Premier League meeting this week talking to a few of the managers at much bigger clubs than us, and they were saying how difficult it is, how difficult the market is, and I think the Neymar one's brought a whole different look at it again. Not for clubs like us, but it raises everyone's thinking. Each time one of their moves happens, it just raises the market constantly. So it gets tougher and tougher and tougher.
The danger of throwing names at you if they come straight back without anything on them. But I think sometimes
you're right.
No, but sometimes clubs aren't involved and agents are talking, or people are chattering, and there's nothing in it. There's 2 names that were linked.
No, it's often the case. But I think that's part of what is the Premier League. Not just the Premier League, by the way. I think the Championship's got like that now. But you get linked with everyone, and people are trying to self-link themselves to clubs, and agents linking players to clubs, and sometimes just to start a market, by the way. A market that's non-existent can be started by someone linking someone to a club, a player to any given Premier League club. And I couldn't tell you the stat, but a heck of a lot is wrong. But that's the way it goes. It's just, we're used to it.
Can I throw 2 at you anyway, though?
You can help yourself.
Sam Lucas and Ryan Shawcross. Anything in either of those 2?
There might be. There might not be.
Excellent.
I don't know. As you know, joking about. I've always attempted, because it's not easy, I've attempted to keep our business as private as possible. I just think it's the respectful way of doing things. I have to be the front of the club, and I think that's the right way of doing things. It's not everyone's way, and I'm not accusing anyone else. If anyone makes out I'm judging anyone, I'm not. It's just my particular way is to try and be private. And if positions or availability becomes out in the open, it's very, very rarely from me.
Burnley fans like players that play for the football club. Did you attempt to get Jay Rodriguez back before he went to West Brom? Was there any movement, any idea of that much?
It's a strange one now. Where's that one come from?
No. I just wondered whether it was something you did because it might.
No. I think the obvious thing is J Rod, very well thought of here before my time. Obviously, very, very well thought of in the whole area, on and off the pitch. People just start gluing that together, as a given, and it's not that way. It's just not that way, and you've got to remember some of the players that we attempt to sign can often be done with a fee, but then the contracts are too big, and that's a constant debate point with myself and the chairman and the board, because when do you move it forward? Who's the appropriate player? Once you move it forward, by the way, don't forget, you don't just shift on one player, you shift on all your players you've got as well. So, the timing of that, why it's done and when it's done is important, and I've grown to understand that here. It's very difficult. It's simple as that. I've never ever said anything other. When you lose your players, particularly good players, and then you've got to try and replace them, and you do it year on year on year, like we have done here, it's very, very difficult. But it's the reality of managing this football club, and many others, by the way. There's many good things about this football club, so I'm not going to start crying it in, but it is a fact. It is difficult at times.
I know last season when we talked about Michael Keane, you talked about James Tarkowski being part of the process, and Keane went, and Tarkowski might be someone who can fill in. How pleased have you been with his development over the summer? Because
well, he came in at the end of last season along with Kevin Long, and I thought both of them did well. I think there's an obvious competition there between three of them really. Tarky's probably just got a little bit in front. He's had more pitch time and more involvement in us over the last season and before. But Kevin Long's done ever so well at the end of last season, and I'm pleased he's just re-signed as well. So, there is competition there. You'd argue that Ben Mee's done enough over a longer period. So we'll wait and see. But, we want competition everywhere. And yet again, if we can find something that fits us in that market, then we will look at it. It's not about, I must make it clear, there's no kind of saving money. It's not about that. But when you're recruiting, they still have to be right for the club. And it's a very, very difficult process. I mentioned all last year, our recruitment side of things is still growing. It's the last, a very, very important piece, but probably the last piece other than this structures and things that you're looking at, the last piece of the club that has to grow. Because the market is getting difficult, and everyone's demand is to be in the Premier League. So if you notice although the value of players is hard at the moment, alongside that, people are looking at almost development is slowing down. It's more about players who can do the job for the now. And I think that's how the market's changing, and that's why you're seeing currently less young players playing, because the demands of being in the Premier League are so powerful now. We're in amongst all of that thinking and doing our version of it, and it is difficult.
But pleased with your acquisitions, you talk about that kind of Premier League experience you brought that in.
Yeah. No, really pleased. They've fitted in well. Charlie's the only one who's yet to really get it to grips with the Premier League, obviously. The other three lads, Phil Barsley's just getting properly fit. He'd had a knock just before he came here, so he's slightly behind the curve fitness-wise, but he's getting there, and he's lean and fit. He knows his way around the Premier League. We know that. John Walters, we think, is a man about the building, and with Bardo, to be fair, as well. And then Cork, he's well known around these parts. And I know him. We had him as a youngster at Watford when I was youth team coach under Brendan Rodgers. Got to know him a little bit then. I've always liked him. So I think they're good additions. And I think probably what you started the interview with was that idea of how does it suddenly become bad because you lose a striker? Well, it hasn't become bad. It's just become part of what Burnley has been historically. You get players in, you develop them, you try and win games, you be relatively successful, which we have been, and at some point they often outgrow the club. So it's something that I'm used to.
Is there the same thing on that first game? The first game came out of the hat. It was Chelsea where you may have thought it's the champions, it's the most difficult thing I can get, and then 6 weeks on, perhaps it's not as difficult. Bearing in mind they've got strength, and then there seems to be a camp.
Well, I think they do all right. I think I wouldn't. Yeah, and I don't think they're drastically weaker by any stretch. No, I mean, they're a fine side. The bigger picture thinking is it's a season's work. For clubs like ourselves, not just us, by the way, I think we all agree, you could certainly go 10 clubs, for example, whose main focus is really on being in the Premier League. That's their main focus. Now, of course, there's ups and downs and ins and outs behind that as the season progresses. So we look at the whole season. You can't just think it's about playing Chelsea. In fact, our first 5 or 6 away games are really tough on paper. That's not to say the home games are not tough. We all know the Premier League's renowned for how tough it is. But you can't measure yourself on 1, 2, 3 games. It's on a whole season's work, and that's what we showed last season. That's when it's important, a full season's work.
Antonio Conte described as a rough team. I think that was meant complimentary.
Yeah, well, it couldn't be anything other, because if you look at the stats on our bookings and sendings off, I think you'll find they're very, very low year on year. So I would imagine I don't know what he meant, but I think he'd know that our team usually are in a game. Sometimes you're not, but usually we have a team and we put out a team that's in a game for the full duration of it. But I think it's fair to say that they're a powerful squad, they're a powerful team, and would probably be up amongst it again this year, you would think.
But that, as you say, long travels, those first 5 or 6 games are as tough as they get, aren't they? But bearing in mind, a team that only won 1 away game last season.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, again, you have to take them all on at some point, and it's not to be overthought, but you have to be aware that there is an obvious run of tough games coming away from home at the beginning of the season. That's the way it is. We've had other spells, over through different campaigns when it's been tough, and you just get on with it.
Just to find out, what difference does it make to have a new training ground at the start of a pre-season? It's kind of midway through.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, well, I think apart from the new players, of course, the lads coming back in, it's some of the finishing details been put in. We're waiting on the top pitch, as you've seen. That's the last major surface to be done. So no, I think it's becoming a home for the players, and the staff. I think that's the difference, and the longer we spend in it, the more it becomes that. Pleasure.
We've got PLP reported.